Hey, what's going on, y'all? Breaking news. I just heard about this through X. The developers tweeted out something talking about a secret boss, some legendary Sphinx that's featured in the trailer. This weird looking winged feathered creature that looks at you and smiles. Apparently, this is a character from one of the Dragon's Dogma games that wasn't released in the US. It was only in Dragon's Dogma Online, but they decided to bring this boss into Dragon's Dogma 2 as a secret boss fight that apparently has tons of loot. And get this, you can even go through the entire game without even finding this boss. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I'm going to go through this article and read the things that they highlighted in here, so just bear with me and let me know what you think about it. I'll leave a link to the full article in the description below, but here's what they say. One of the most striking shots in the Dragon's Dogma 2 release date trailer is a shot of a giant, eerily grinning feathered monster with fiery red eyes ominously approaching the Arisen. To me, it stuck out as a uniquely non-confrontational encounter with a giant and imposing monster, which is not something you see very often in the world of Dragon's Dogma. So apparently this boss is unique from amongst the regular boss fights and giants you would encounter normally in the game. It turns out this monster is Capcom's take on a legendary Sphinx, a monster that didn't appear in the first game, but does in fact make an appearance in Dragon's Dogma Online. Like I said, a game that never made it to Western shores. But even if you did face off against a Sphinx in Dragon's Dogma Online, don't expect the encounter to go exactly the same way, because the Sphinx has a very special role in Dragon's Dogma 2, assuming you're able to even find it in the first place. Now this goes into what I was talking about in my previous video when I said that the customization of the characters that you make is not only aesthetically motivated, just to look good. When you create your characters, there are different sizes that you can make them to determine how much strength you want them to have, how much agility, and the ability to go into small hidden areas that you would otherwise not be able to if you had a big or bulky character. But that doesn't mean you make a character just to simply fit into small areas and secret areas. Because let's say you do make a small character, but finding this legendary Sphinx might not even revolve around you being small. You might need to be big or strong to move a boulder out of the way to get to certain areas. So you just don't know what this is going to be. So I think the character that I'm going to make is going to be in the middle ground between big and small. So I can possibly be like a jack of all trades character. Hopefully we'll see how that goes. Because they said the Sphinx is a monster well hidden in the world of Dragon's Dogma 2 and lives in isolation. Game director Hideaki Itsuno himself believes that many players will beat the game without even ever encountering it. For those who do discover the Sphinx hideout, however, they'll find an encounter that's very different from your standard boss fight. Now, if you're a player like me, I'm one who tries to explore the beaten paths of all kinds of areas in the open world. I don't like to just go through the game. And especially in RPG games, I find myself getting lost in side quests like crazy. I purposely don't run the main mission so that I can be sort of like a completionist. This is what's the most appealing to me about RPG open world games. It's not going to be any different in Dragon's Dogma 2. But here's the kicker, and this is what's going to drive my intrigue even more. It says behind the Sphinx are 5 treasure chests, each one tied to a particular riddle that you must solve before being able to claim the contents of it. The writer says in his demo, he only got a chance to attempt to solve one, the riddle of eyes, of course. These are not just simple questions and answer response type riddles. As Itsuno-san puts it, this is an action game. So the riddles need to be solved through action as well. There were a lot of dungeons in Zelda that involved action-based riddles, so this is nothing new to me. I'm just excited to see where this goes, man. This is crazy. But here's a hint as to how the riddle of eyes was. It was pretty simple, as they said. And I quote, "Our eyes are our allies, yet oft do they betray, for eyes tell lies, so I advise, and thence do lead astray." You're then told to venture forth into a cave and bring back the item which is of greatest value. As you explore the dangerous cave, which will be filled with goblins, trapdoors, and even a lumbering ogre awaiting you if you fall into one of those trapdoors, you'll find many hidden treasures, some well hidden, others in plain sight, all with items of various worth. Your goal is to find the item that satisfies the conditions of the riddle and bring it back to the Sphinx. The big catch is that you only get one shot at each riddle. If you bring back an item to the Sphinx and it's not the one she's looking for, you'll lock yourself out of that riddle's reward. So you need to really make sure that you're not being fooled by the tricky words of the Sphinx. And defeating the Sphinx is the riddle itself. So I guess the boss fight is not really an actual fight against her, rather just a riddle. But of course, if you're not one for riddles, there is another more straightforward way to deal with the Sphinx. You could simply choose violence. Okay, now this is what I was talking about. I didn't know they was gonna say this. I thought it was just riddles, and I like riddles, but honestly, I prefer a more straightforward approach, as they're saying right here. You could simply choose violence. That said, the Sphinx isn't exactly the kind of monster that you'll beat just by haphazardly attacking it. And he goes on to say that he's revealing too much. He doesn't want to ruin the fun, so we'll just have to say that possible to fight it. You can fight it depending on your choices, says Itsuno-san. He also says defeating the Sphinx is a riddle in itself. We wanted to make the question of whether it could be defeated or even fall into a mystery, and we'd like that to be a part of the fun players have dealing with the Sphinx and its riddles. Players will need to find the Sphinx in the first place. That'll be difficult, I think, if they can. The journey to finding it might actually be the biggest mystery of all. So they're leaving this really open-ended, which I like. And don't worry, I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon. This article's almost finished. It seems like a secret well worth uncovering, not just because of the reward that you stand to earn, but also just because of the riddles themselves are fun to solve. It's a great blend of dungeon exploration and puzzle solving, as each treasure chest I encountered made me question whether its placement, its contents, or its appearance satisfied the conditions of the riddle. The Sphinx is just one example of a missable piece of substantial content that players don't need to find in order to beat the game, but will be handsomely rewarded if they do. There are parts of the game that you don't have to discover. We've made it possible to beat the game without finding them. That's the key to this all. If there are parts of the game that you don't have to discover, we've made it possible to beat the game without finding them, said Itsuno-san. I think the game will provide you with a lot of experiences that you'll want to tell your friends about. They might be monsters, your interactions with monsters, or times you escape the monsters without even fighting them. The game is made so that it'll create that kind of drama and those kinds of experiences, and we hope that players get to enjoy that. Now this is really cool to me. Dragon's Dogma is getting a lot deeper than I thought. The hype is real, I believe. The gameplay looks very exciting, and I think during a time like this, it's well needed. A great RPG open world game is needed right now in these times, because what's been out lately hasn't really been as impressive. So it's the perfect time for a game like this. Let me know what you think about this down below in the comment section, and I can't wait to see what other secrets and hidden treasures they unveil along the way. This game comes out in March 22nd, I think, of this year. I appreciate you listening to the end. Like the video if you liked what I said. Also subscribe to my channel if you want to follow me along this journey of Dragon's Dogma 2. I'll catch you in the next one. Be right out.